really getting into the thick of it now. This is Death and Other Details, Episode 5. I'm Sean. This is Sean's Take, and this is your spoiler warning. There are spoilers ahead. I'll assume you've seen the episode if you continue. Also, I'm going to use clips from the show, as is allowed under the fair use provision of the copyright laws of 1976. Let's get into it. So, we see the meeting that happened between Layla and Danny after Layla had confronted Danny about having followed her. And he admits that he's not Keith, that he's Danny, and he has been following her, and nobody's ever made him before. And they have a conversation about Victor Sams and Layla's car accident. And Layla does tell and warn Danny to stop, or he'll, just stop. Layla and Rufus, we cut back to where we saw at the end of the last episode, Layla hiding or coming out of the cabinet on the wet deck, and Rufus being there, and she asked if he knew who Victor Sams was. And they have a conversation, and Rufus believes her. And that's one of the first times Layla's been believed for something. And she lets Rufus know that she believed that the Collier family was the victims of blackmail from Victor Sams. And that's how she ended up meeting Anna, her wife. We do see that Imogen and Sonal get the refugees to Malta. They're also going to meet with Sonal's contact to get the bill of lading deciphered. And of course, that can't happen tonight. That'll happen tomorrow, so they get a hotel. He does get her a separate room. Good for him. Doesn't seem to be an accident, though. The next morning, I'm just going to cover the whole thing in Malta, even though it's out of order in the episode. The next morning, they having coffee. He says that he made contact with his person, but they can't meet until 5, so they have all day on Malta. So they go and visit St. John's, and they see the painting of the beheading of St. John. There's a little story about it. Imogen notices they are being followed by a man in a suit. They do get to the... I did think it was interesting. There is a thing at the cathedral where you have to dress a certain way. There's certain kinds of shoes that aren't allowed to be worn inside for fear of damage to the surface of the floor. You can buy shoes, you can buy slippers, and modest dress is suggested to such an extent that they have Sonal grab a blanket that they have there, or a shawl that's available, and they drape it over Imogen's shoulders so that she is more covered. They don't mention it. It just happens, and I thought that was a nice credit to us, the audience, that we're able to just pick up things and move forward. We don't need to be spoon-fed along the way. So they get to the contact later that day, and she says, yeah, of course she can do it, but she needs to take the original. So Imogen loses the only physical piece of evidence she has in investigating her mother's death, in the hope that it's going to bring more information. And on their way back to the ship, Sonal and Imogen hook up. So that was that on Malta. We see sort of the morning after, the afterglow of Anna and Eleanor Chun spending the night together. Anna leaves, goes back to their cabin. Layla is there, and they have a little bit of an argument. And Layla wants to leave the ship, and Anna says she can't. She has to close the deal. And of course, Layla's offended. Anna never believes her, never takes her seriously. We do flash back to 6 months ago during their conversation. And 6 months ago in Arlington, Virginia, Layla was speaking to a man about Victor Sams. And we see her explain she had taken all the precautions that he said. She's using a physical cassette, nothing digital. And she parked 2 blocks away and walked, blah, blah, blah. And he explains that, he's been tracking this, and they set him up to be a child pornographer. And he lost everything. He lost his wife, he lost his family, he lost his job. And so Layla driving home, or quote unquote driving home, allowing her Tesla to auto-navigate while she listens, she records a note that says, my contact told me these things about Victor Sams. And as soon as she does say Victor Sams, the car immediately reroutes her trip, and she realizes there's no route where the car is taking her. She tries to regain physical control of the car and can't, and the car takes her off the road down a cliff. That's her accident. We finally see, and it had to do with Victor Sams. I keep saying it with an S. I don't know if his name's if the name is Victor Sam, Victor Sams. Sorry if I'm offending anybody. Back on the ship in the jail cells, Teddy comes in dressed in civilian clothes, not for work, and she stops at Jules' cell and says they made it to Malta, and he says, well, you look pretty good. I'd like to get to know you. And she goes to talk to her sister, Winnie, about how she got recruited and things, and Winnie won't say anything about anything. It's the next day now, and Layla and Anna have a virtual therapy session, which is immediately annoying to everybody. Layla finally slams the laptop lid shut and says, I want a divorce. After everything, she just wants a divorce. And she sends Anna on her way to the closing. We do see that Layla finds a camera that she must have missed before. She does another sweep of electronics and finds a camera hidden behind the molding. She shows it to Rufus. Teddy verifies that they don't have cameras like that as part of the cruise line. We get to the closing or the meeting with the Chuns and the Colliers, and Lawrence is there, seated in his spot. And Anna is offended by the terms of the new agreement where the Chuns would take 51% of the company, and she tries to walk out. And Lawrence, who is, in fact, still the CEO, stops everybody, stands up, and says, you have a deal, and shakes the Chun's hands, both of them. And that's it. 51% of the Collier estate is gone, but they're no longer broke. As Llewellyn, the lawyer, says, we're not broke, but we are broke in. Llewellyn heads back to his cabin to find Hilda standing outside his door, asking exactly what it is he needs to be punished for. So those two are going to hook up in a very Llewellyn way. Rufus and Layla and Teddy are talking about the cameras and how that might work, and Rufus finally trips. He sees the map on the wall of all of the ship's ports of call, and he asks where the water line is on the boat. The water line is how deep does the boat sit in the water, or how far up the boat does the water come when the boat's in the water. And he grabs an axe and he heads down below the water line and chops a hole in the wall and finds the hidden room with the blue light. I assume this is servers that's running Victor Sam's business. And the reason you put it, I don't know if they'll talk about it or not, with what they did with the dress code at St. John's, they may not. But the reason you put the servers below the water line on the outside wall of the boat is so that the water keeps the servers cool. Pretty good idea, actually. It would cut down on the fan noise that it would take. And that's where the episode ends. So it's a lot of information coming very, very quickly. We're coming down to the end of the show. And so Rufus is onto it. Layla is a lot smarter than we had given her credit up till now. And we're starting to see how capable she actually is. Can't get a read on Teddy. Maybe Winnie is the only member of that family that is compromised by Victor Sams, but Teddy might be a good guy. I'm not sure. Sunal definitely seems like a bad guy. I don't think he's going to turn out to be Victor Sams. I think Victor Sams is going to be a organization, bigger unit than a person. I think he's probably just a patsy. What did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments what you think, where we're going, and some of these revelations that are coming up, right? So that's it. I'll see you for the next episode. I'm Sean. This is Sean's Take. See you next time.